In this video, I want to talk a little bit about psychedelics and sort of give perhaps a fresh perspective on the subject of psychedelics. Now, most of you guys watching this video, you have found this channel at this time of me making it either through my fitness channel and you are following my fitness channel and then you happen to hop in on this channel, or more than likely at the time of making this video you searched up something psychedelic related, mushroom trip reports, microdosing, whatever, and you found my channel and you subscribed and you're now watching this video. So it seems that YouTube is, whether I like it or not, is labeling this channel as psychedelic related, and so it's sort of given me a lot of views of people finding psychedelic content, and I am not complaining. Believe me, this is good. Anything that grows this channel for me is good news. Okay, it doesn't matter what it is. So that being said, I do have a slightly different perspective on psychedelics than I did when I first started the channel and when I began experimenting with psychedelics. So my first ever encounter with psychedelics was May 21st or May 23rd. I can't remember. I would have to look up the Champions League final between Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid of 2016. Whatever that day was, it was, because I did it after that game. That was my first encounter. So in May of 2016. And when I tried it, I was like, whatever this is, I'm going to go down that rabbit hole. And the following year or so, I went and experimented pretty heavily and have had several heroic dose experiences with psilocybin mushrooms. And during that period, I was going through major changes. As you can imagine, I was taking a heroic dose on a monthly basis. It became a monthly thing for me, a monthly ritual to do 5-6 grams of mushrooms. And as you can imagine, I was going through a lot of psychological, emotional changes. My entire worldview has come down crashing on me. Everything that I thought I was and everything that I thought reality was, it was shattered. It was destroyed by Shiva, if you will, by the Shiva element of the Godhead, the destroyer. And so I've experienced cosmic love. I found out that actually I am pure awareness, pure consciousness, pure love. And because I was having such profound experiences, such deep, profound, literally mind-altering, mind-dissolving, mind-bending experiences, I became a big advocate of psychedelics, and I thought that, this is going to change the world. Everybody should do psychedelics. That seemed to be my answer to everything. Why don't you go and do mushrooms? Why don't you go and do LSD? And I really became one of those annoying shroom heads, acid heads, really. Like, the solution to everything is take psychedelics, and such that that reaction is understood, and I understand why that was my reaction at the time, because here I was having these incredibly life-changing experiences, and so, I wanted everybody to have the same experience, because as you go through these experiences, you realize that you are one with all of it. You are it. You're a subjective manifestation of spirit, of the divine. So, of course, you want everybody to have these experiences. And that's a bit of a naive. That's not a bit of a naive. That's quite a naive way of looking at the world. And, thinking that LSD and mushrooms are gonna save the world and they're gonna be everyone's solution. Quite short-sighted. So I was short-sighted at the time. I was overtaken by the emotions, by my emotions of, I was experiencing states of bliss, of ecstasy, of love, and feeling closer to everything and finding out more about the nature of reality and etc. etc. So that drove me to start this channel, and I initially didn't start it to be psychedelics, and it's not a psychedelic channel, but psychedelics are part of the content, and it's driving a lot of the new people here. And by the way, welcome aboard to everyone who's just found out about this channel recently. So, what is the new perspective on psychedelics for me? What is my new perspective? How do I see psychedelics playing a role in society? How do I see psychedelics playing a role in the evolution of consciousness, of helping people in their lives, however they need to be helped? Well, first of all, what psychedelics have taught me and continue to teach me, because I microdose. So what they continue to teach me, and what they've led me down, Eastern wisdom, ancient Eastern wisdom and Eastern mysticism. So that's Buddhism, that's Hinduism, that's Jainism, that's Sikhism, that's Sufism. You know, Sufis are a branch of Islam. That's Taoism, you know, the Tao, the way. And really, that's kind of the trip that psychedelics have taken me down on. Now, what is it? I'm making this video, it's the end of 2018. About 2.5 years now, right? 2.5 years. And here's what I realized. These experiences that we Westerners, I mean, I don't know if I consider myself a Westerner, but here I am. I've been here in Canada for 14 years. I spent the first 13, 14 years of my life in the Middle East, so I'm kind of half-half there. But I mean, last 14 years I've been here, so practically I am a Westerner, practically speaking. So these experiences that here in the West we were experiencing and were absolutely just mind-boggling, literally mind-boggling. What it turns out is that for thousands of years, people were sitting in caves exploring these inner worlds that we are just getting to experience with taking psychedelics. And not only have they been experiencing it, but they've actually mapped out the whole bit, the whole scene, and put it down in words, in philosophies, and religions, right? So we have things like the Vedas, the holy scriptures of Hinduism, the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana, and then we have, of course, Buddhist Four Noble Truths, and the many discourses of the Buddha, and the Tripitaka, that's what the book is called, one of the holy books in Buddhism. And we have, as it turns out, you know, the philosophy of Vedanta, and Sufi dancing, and Sufi singing, and Sufi music, and you know, I didn't mention shamanic, but shamanic traditions go on the same path. It's just shamanism is usually associated, as we think of it in the West, with South America and, you know, indigenous places and remote places. But of course, it does apply. It does apply to the East as well. So as it turns out, all of these maps of consciousness have been around for thousands of years, because as it turns out, in the Western world is more oriented towards exploring the outer world. So that's why the West is obsessed with going to the moon, going to Mars, and going outwards. But traditionally, the East has been more concerned with exploring the inner worlds, and they've been doing it for thousands of years. So here we are, as Westerners, taking these magic mushrooms, this magic pills, this ergot, LSD, right? This fungus, and boom, what the hell is this? Who am I? And as it turns out, you figure out your pure awareness, and you're not any of your roles, and you're not any of your identities or personalities that you thought you were. In the East, they've already figured this shit out a long time ago. Long time. They have systems, man. Ashtanga yoga, Raja yoga. They have systems, exquisite systems, beautiful systems that will not only get you to feel what you feel like when you're on psychedelics, but will get you to, if you do those systems, you follow these systems, you practice them, you'll permanently feel like you're on psychedelics. That's the funny thing. So this stuff has been figured out and has been mapped out. And that's why there's a tendency, this is a tendency, that the longer you spend experimenting with psychedelics, this is just a tendency, that the longer you spend experimenting with psychedelics, the more in line your perspective and view on the world becomes more in line with Buddhist philosophy, with Hindu philosophy, with Sufi philosophy. You know, it's not a coincidence, and it's a tendency. I'm not saying this happens every time. Okay, I know there's some shroom heads and acid heads out there that are just addicted to the bliss of it, like I used to be. And they're just like, whoa, man, this is cool, right? I dig, I know. But there's a tendency that the longer you spend experimenting with these mind-altering substances, the more likely you will be in a line, even if you don't know about these philosophies, because the psychedelics themselves, they speak to you such things that when you go and read Buddhism and read the Four Noble Truths of the Buddha and the 3 marks of existence, you know, impermanence, suffering, and anatta, no self, you realize that that's exactly what the psychedelics speak to you. So the psychedelic state of mind, essentially, has been mapped out in ancient Eastern wisdom for thousands and thousands of years. It's there. It's right there. It's not even hidden. It's not even occult knowledge. It's not even esoteric. It's right there. It's just we live in a largely unconscious society. And because we live in a largely unconscious society, we're not aware of this wisdom. And yes, there is yoga studios popping up everywhere here in the West, everywhere. Okay, but they're Western oriented. They're just, the way they're marketed is hatha yoga, right? Postures and get your body to be better and be more flexible and do splits and, you know, all that stuff. Okay, so it's really like, if you look at the yoga system, hatha yoga is like 5-10% of it, and the target of hatha yoga is to calm down your nerves and calm down your body and get it loose, so you can sit down and meditate, and so you can sit down and get into altered states of consciousness, and sit down and do the chanting and do the breath work and do the candle flame meditation. There's so many different types of meditation, right? So what I've learned from Eastern mysticism and Eastern wisdom is the system of reincarnation, that we keep coming back here, and we've been doing this for a very, 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 very long time. And once you have an eternal perspective of things, you realize that giving somebody LSD or mushrooms isn't going to solve the issue. They're dealing with karma. They're dealing with karma. You know, I used to think like, there's a specific person in my life where I thought if I was to give them mushrooms, that it would solve a lot of their problems. And that was in more of the naive days. Okay, I thought, you know, this person is troubled, got a lot of troubles, and maybe if they just take a little bit of mushrooms, a little bit of LSD, it'll solve their problem. And I guess the more I go down in my studies and my applications of these studies, the more I realize there is no way in hell mushrooms or LSD is gonna just solve all of this person's problems. Because now I see this person, I see their problems, I see their relationships, all their past lives, I see their attachments, I see their desires that are keeping them there, and I say no. One experience of mushrooms or LSD is not going to solve your problems here. It might give you a little bit of insight, it might push you in a direction, of where you need to go, but that's all it's gonna do. It's not gonna suddenly melt down all your attachments and desires that are keeping you stuck where you are. So yeah, it's a little bit, I think I've calmed down a little bit in my preaching of psychedelics. I started off quite excited and with a bit of aggression, if you will, in promoting psychedelics when I first started this channel, and that was pretty cute. That was pretty cute of me. That was cute. I look back and say, oh, how cute, how cute. And I'm not so pushy on it anymore. I still do psychedelics. I still do big trips. I microdose, but I do it more in the form of I share my experiences now and where it's leading me. Rather than preaching it and saying that's gonna change the world and that's gonna, you know, help thousands and millions of people become enlightened and fix all their problems. Because as you realize, as you study this work, we have been incarnating and reincarnating for such a long time that one little experience isn't going to solve all your problems. Yes, Buddha says life is suffering, and attachment is the cause of suffering, and desire. And these desires and attachments don't fall off overnight. They take many lifetimes. So I see the role of psychedelics now as catalysts and helpers and tools to evolve our consciousness, but not as the solution, and certainly not the solution for everybody. Certainly not. Some people, their storyline of who they think they are, their ego structure is so strong and it's so powerful and it has such a grip on their existence. They are simply not ready for an experience as shocking as psychedelics, but rather they're more ready for a steady type of little bits of wisdom, perhaps here and there, meditation, etc., etc., and then maybe they can handle the psychedelic, because the psychedelic just makes you realize you're not your story, you're not your thoughts. And so that can be really scary for a lot of us, because we're so identified with our thoughts of who we think we are, right? That can be really scary, man. That can be really, really scary for a lot of people. So, and you understand that everybody's on a certain stage in the journey. Nobody is better or worse. You know, it's just, it is what it is. It's the way, it's the Tao. Everybody's on a different journey back home. We're going back home. I mean, that's where we're going. We're going back home. Okay, so the final destination is the merging with the divine, is becoming no one. Essentially, that's what it is. Final ego transcendence is you become no one. You become no one. That's paranirvana. That's the place Buddha went to after he perished. That's it. You become no one. Okay, so it's pretty scary. It's scary stuff. Becoming no one. Now, I say I'm in training to become no one now. And I will know when the training is done, when I'm no longer here on this physical existence. So as long as I'm here speaking, as long as I'm here, my soul keeps coming back, means I got attachments, I got desires to deal with. And it just means I haven't finished with it. I haven't finished with these attachments yet. And so that's why I'm here again. Because the minute my training to become no one is done, I became no one. I am it. I am the whole universe. And so I'm no one. I'm no longer an identity, if you will. So really crazy stuff. The East really has figured this shit out, really. And so, yeah, I see psychedelics as a powerful tool. I still use them personally. I still use them. I don't know if I'll use them forever, but I'm certainly really interested in Eastern mysticism and Eastern wisdom, because again, they've mapped this shit out. They've been doing this for thousands of years, just going into caves and basically mapping out the whole scene. You see, and yes, they did use psychedelics, like things like soma, and it's been reported, but they just meditated. They were these crazy high consciousness beings who incarnated in those regions in the East, in the Himalayas, and they've just mapped out this whole thing and said, hey, here are systems. You want to be like God? You want to become God? Here it is. But for us in the West, because we're so plugged into the analytical, rational mind, into materialism, so when we do psychedelics, we're like, what the fuck is this? What is this? What is this? You know? But if you go to and spend some time with one of those Himalayan monks, they'd probably look at you and be like, how cute, you know, because that's their experience of everyday reality, and they have systems for it, and they tell you, well, you know, you want to do it, here's the system, you know, follow it and you'll see some progress. And it's true. If you start to do some of these meditations and some of these practices, you will begin to experience psychedelic-like states more and more, just without even doing anything. Life will start to get quite psychedelic for you. Anyway, that's where I'll finish off the video. If you are interested to learn more about this stuff, I have a mini report that I wrote, like 11 pages, called 7 Pillars of Enlightenment. Okay, it's 11 pages, it's for free. So you can check out the report in the description, and I'm gonna make sure that I always leave a link for it in the comments. Okay, so 7 Pillars of Enlightenment. Again, the link in the description, in the comments. I briefly talk about this stuff, and I'm in sort of working on my own systems here to do this, so I can keep doing this, because this is the game of life. People, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to get enlightened, to bring out the light within us out. That's the game of life. And once again, these people sitting in the caves in the East have laid it out for us. They've said, you know, the goal in Buddhism is to attain nirvana. The goal in Sikhism and Hinduism is to attain mukti, moksha. You see? So it's, you know, in Sufism, fina. Fina is an Arabic word, it actually means exactly what nirvana means. Nirvana means to extinguish. Fina means, it means no more, no one, you see? Anyway, I'll finish off the video here. Guys, God bless you all. And I love every single one of you, but don't forget to subscribe, or you're gonna sleep with the fishes.